Hello everyone, how's it going? I'm WoWcrendor and welcome back to another episode of Fishing with Crendor. This is a show where I fish with people in the WoW community, and today I am joined by...
Bajheera, hey. How's it going?
Yeah! That's going pretty good. How you doing?
Fish are biting today, man. Things are going well.
That's true. It's always a good day when the fish are biting.
Hopefully this big boat next to us doesn't scare him away.
Or the horses neighing.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of visitors this time. This is because you're streaming, but
That's true.
this is the first episode I've ever had someone stream with me or do anything. So
little experiment.
yeah, it'll add some community.
Yeah, dude.
So if you don't know what this show is, it's literally just a show where I fish with people and we talk like old men, just nostalging out about WoW.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So, for everybody doesn't know who you are, why don't you tell them who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Bajheera. I am a warrior main. Make YouTube videos, the YouTube channel, youtube.com/BajheeraWow, and I live stream at twitch.tv/Bajheera. I've been playing since Cataclysm, pretty much. So I haven't been playing the game quite as long as some people, but as soon as I started playing this game, I fell in love. I have a big gaming background in terms of MMO games, but the kind of the MMO game that I played the most was actually Phantasy Star Online, and I played that completely alone. So it was a game that I played for GameCube, but I've always enjoyed those games where you have one character, you kill stuff, you get gear, and you get stronger. So whenever I found WoW, I knew it was meant to be.
So let's go all the way back to the start of your gaming days. So when did you start just gaming?
So I feel like, interestingly enough, since I'm doing streaming in YouTube now, my first experience with gaming wasn't really playing games myself. As that my friends had video games, I even remember there being an Atari at this aftercare thing at my school, and I was just totally transfixed and enthralled with video games. But I wouldn't even really want to play. I'd be like, no, it's okay. I'll just watch. So they'd be playing Pong or something. I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool. And my first ever video game system that I had was I had the choice. My cat's jumping. What are you doing?
Oh god.
I had the choice of getting a Super Nintendo or a Nintendo 64.
Mm-hmm.
And in a very, very smart decision by my younger self, I opted for the Super Nintendo, which is even though Nintendo 64 had some pretty sweet games, a lot of the games that really made me fall in love with gaming were for Super Nintendo. I played Secret of Evermore. It's probably one of my all-time favorite games. Then of course Secret of Mana as well. It's a game like that. And those are the kind of games where you have a character, and the Final Fantasy games were fun too. But the games that were really the most fun for me was the ones where you never went into a different screen for battle.
Mm-hmm.
So you would walk up to a creature, and you just start smacking it, and you would see numbers flying off of it when you hit it. And I was like, man, these are the coolest games, because your character got more powerful as you killed more monsters, and you found better weapons. And so that was my very first experience with sort of hack and slash RPGs like that. And then I started playing Diablo after that, which is obviously Blizzard games. So I think StarCraft and Diablo were really what introduced me to Blizzard games in the first place.
Like the OG Diablo or Diablo 2?
Yeah, like OG Diablo.
Mm.
I got that, one of my friends had the game, and he's like, here, you can have it. I was like, okay, sweet. So I got to play that. He let me borrow the game, and I loved it. But that was at the time when Diablo 2 was also out. So I played a little bit of Diablo, and then I went to Diablo 2 afterwards, which was pretty sick. So played a little bit of Diablo 2, learned that I really loved those kind of games, and a little bit of action behind us.
We do.
Yeah.
PvP battles.
Expected. But I ended up loving those kind of action RPG games, and so I stayed in the Blizzard line of things for a long time. I played StarCraft. I played some Warcraft 3. And then out of Warcraft 3, I started playing the custom game Dota. And so I was playing Dota, and I was like, man, wouldn't it be sick if you could keep your character after you complete a game of Dota? You got all this experience, you killed all these guys, and you got your character really powerful, but then after every game you have to start over. I'm like, well,
Yep.
there is a game like that. It's called World of Warcraft. So decided to play WoW, decided to check it out, fell in love instantly, and the rest is history, or the rest is on YouTube, I suppose.
So
yeah.
like, when were you playing Warcraft 3 then? Like, what
Yeah, I'm trying to
expansion
think.
was out?
Yeah, so I played Warcraft 3, just the Reign of Chaos one, and then I also played the Frozen Throne as well. But back then I played on a Mac, so I'm really glad that Blizzard decided to make make games for Mac, because they're like one of the only companies who did.
Yeah.
But since they did that, I was able to sort of experience the Blizzard world, experience Blizzard games, and sort of develop a love for their style, their history, their lore. And so me playing World of Warcraft now is like, it makes a lot of sense to me in hindsight, you know, just the kind of games that I like to play, and being able to learn so much about the Blizzard universe. It was really cool, and I'm really glad to be able to share like my experience with gaming with other people now, because that was one of the things I used to do back in the day. I would play video games. Oh, nice, dude! I got over 9,000. What's that? I just earned over 9,000 achievement points today. Nice.
Right now?
This very moment.
This very moment.
Nice, from fishing. No less. Great. But yeah, so when I was little, I would obviously I like to play games when I was little, but I also like to make like videos, like with a little video camera. I'd record like Legos, like Lego fights. Like I'd make my Lego characters do like really weird stop action where you record like for a whole second, because the camera doesn't have like a short recording on it. You can't record for like a half a second or whatever. You have to record for a full second. So I have all these little Lego videos of like 1 second per frame stop action. And so I'd made all these like little videos, and when I'm looking back, it's like, that's kind of an interesting hobby. Making videos and then gaming. I'm like, I wonder what that's gonna turn into. And then it's like, oh, you know, a couple years later down the line, I'm like, oh, it's my job. That's neat.
Yeah, I had the same kind of experience with that, because like I used to make little like comic books about video game characters and like write stories about video game characters. And
yeah.
So I'm kind of like, oh, I guess I ended up doing that.
Yeah, that's really wild. I think that, I don't know, I definitely consider myself extremely lucky to have been able to do something that like I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. But I mentioned it briefly, but I feel like it definitely needs to be noted in terms of my gaming history, is that game called Phantasy Star Online. That was the first game that I just like relentlessly grinded in that game. Like Diablo 2 was one thing, but I don't think I ever really got past like level like 50 or something in Diablo 2. Like I really enjoyed the game and I loved it, but I guess I just wasn't really gaming quite that hard at that stage in my life, because, you know, I had school and sports and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just spending all my time gaming. But I remember with Phantasy Star Online, that game really took a hold of me. It wasn't really complex, especially since I was playing it in like offline mode. All I really did was just run around and kill monsters, just for the explicit purpose of making your character gain experience points and gain stat points as you grew your character.
Yeah.
But also to get weapons that just randomly drop. So, you know, if anybody ever played Phantasy Star Online, they'll remember the red boxes. Those were the rare weapons. Those were like the epic drops, or even the legendary drops for your character. So whenever a red box emerged out of the carnage of all the dead monsters, then you just get like this ridiculous uplifting in your whole existence. Like, oh my god, it's a rare weapon. So I remember just like coming home from school and playing that game just constantly. Like I'd play it for like 3 hours until my dad came home, and then we'd go to the gym together. So a lot of my current interests sort of fit together well nowadays.
Yeah.
Which is pretty neat. I do the fitness thing, do the streaming and the YouTube thing.
Yeah, like when did you start your fitness thing? 'Cause I mean, you said you played sports and stuff.
Yeah, so I've been sort of I guess I've been playing sports since I was really little, but I know that at the age of 11 is when like I decided that I really wanted to start training for the sake of training, for like improving, and 11's kind of a young age for that.
Yeah.
I do have a Dragon Ball Z to thank for that. So I'd watch a lot of Dragon Ball Z with my friends, and I'd be like, okay, so one day I know I'm gonna have to be able to save the world. I better start training now. So I told my dad, I was like, Dad, one of these days I'm gonna have to save the world. Take me to the gym with you. I need to train. He's like, okay, so here's what you gotta do. You gotta start doing push-ups. So I started doing push-ups when I was like 11. I was doing like 200 something push-ups a day over the summer. I was
Dear
like
God.
a really weird dude. I'd be hanging out with my friends, like, oh yeah. I just like as soon as the thought popped into my head, remember to do push-ups. I would just drop down to like 20 push-ups at a time. So I was up to doing like 250 push-ups a day as an 11-year-old kid, which is not insanely impressive for the numbers, but I guess somewhat impressive for the discipline of it. And I think that's what sort of convinced my dad that it was okay for me to go to the gym. I wasn't gonna go there and goof off or whatever. So
Yeah.
when I was 12, I started going to the gym with my dad, and I continued doing that, you know, all the way up through high school and whatnot. But I was a basketball player when I was younger, and I continued to be a basketball player into high school. But once I got to high school, I ended up finding distance running as like a well, actually I did cross country when I was in like 8th grade, but and I placed like 3rd in the championship, and I just figured it's because everybody else sucked. I was like, I don't understand why I got 3rd. I guess everybody else just sucks. So I didn't really think much of it. But then when I was a freshman, I was running cross country, and I ended up being like the fastest guy on my team, you know, right out of the gate, like first race. And like my coaches were like, whoa, and I was like, whoa. And so we put a lot of work into distance running, and I made it to state my first ever year of distance running in cross country. So I was like, wow, this is awesome. I love this. And so I continued to do distance running. I played basketball my freshman year in high school, and then I decided to commit full time to distance running for the rest of my high school career. So I do have a bit of a background in terms of like being willing to put in a lot of work over a long period of time and sort of moderate your training, moderate your diet for your goals and whatnot. So there's a bit of a background with that. But yeah, the whole practice of training has been going on for a long time. And I continued my distance running into college, actually. I did competitive distance running for a little while, but decided to stop doing that just because it didn't really fit with everything else I wanted to do. Once you get to college, it kind of becomes like a job, and I wanted to do my own thing with my training, so that's what I did.
Yeah. I think, like, you doing all that is, like, a great, I don't know what the word would be, but it's just, like, showing people that not only nerds are gamers.
Yeah.
Like, hardcore gamer, because everyone's like, oh, you play a video game, you're probably a fat guy in the basement.
Yeah.
You know, and you're
or
just
like yeah, or it's
super athlete guy playing WoW all the time.
Or it's like super hardcore nerds like myself can still, like, you know, go to the gym and be fit as well. You know what I'm saying? There's not necessarily any sort of like inactive
stereotype.
Like, yeah, there's a required inactivity level for you to be a hardcore gamer. You know, like it's like literally my job, you know, is based around gaming, but at the same time, I'm really into the fitness side of things and get a lot of enjoyment out of that as well. So yeah, so once I guess that the transition from being just a distance runner into being like a someone who's interested in like the more bodybuilding side of things began to happen in college. Rather than trying to stay really, really lean and sort of fight my natural body style, which I sort of felt was to put on a little bit more muscle. I started trying to, you know, eat a little bit more, do more weight training, because I was always going to the gym when I was younger, but it was more of like an accessory thing. Like, you know, if I want to play basketball, you train, you know, for certain things that will help you be good at basketball. You want to be a distance runner, you train in certain ways, do certain things that'll help you be better at distance running. But I started training for the purpose of just getting better at training, or for the purpose of being better at, you know, physically. So that happened a little bit in college. But in the past 3 years, that's when my mindset really, really changed into really wanting to do this for real, like even on a competitive stage. And it's taken me a while to get to a point where I feel like I can be relatively successful competing. But I am at that stage now. I feel like obviously I always have room for improvement no matter what I do in my gaming and my YouTube channel and my Twitch stream. Like, you can get better at everything that you do, and I'm completely fine with that. But I'm also willing to put in the work and take the steps that lead you down that path. So I did my first ever physique competition like a month ago or so, and I have my next one in a month from now. So really looking forward to that. One? What's up?
How did you do in that one?
Yeah, the first one I ever did, I got 3rd place, which is something that I didn't really expect, but I was really, really proud of, and I feel like I'm already in better shape than I was for that one. So yeah, we're gonna be taking very positive strides moving forward. I'm excited.
Out of how many people were there?
Yeah, so there were only like 4 people in my weight class, or my height class. So it's like, oh yeah, you got 3rd out of 4 people. But you know, one of the big things for me is, you know, getting on stage for the first time. You know, just finally stepping up and doing it. And the cool thing was, even though like I got 3rd out of 4 people, but like out of the whole competition, they sort it by heights. You know, I didn't feel out of place. I felt like the work I put in, you know, showed, and that's really, really cool for me. So I'm looking forward to doing another one.
Yeah, Well, like with well, now we've covered that. What about your streaming? Like, when did you get into streaming,
Yeah,
or did
so
you do YouTube first? Or
yeah, I started with YouTube. I I was watching. I mean, I had watched a lot of WoW content even before I started, playing the game. So, I was familiar with your channel even before I started playing the game.
yeah,
But I watched a lot of guys on YouTube making epic like PvP montages, and even though I didn't even play the game, I was like, man, this gets me so hyped up. Like the music was awesome, the plays were cool, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to make videos that made other people feel the way those videos made me feel. And so I was like, you know what? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start playing this game, and I'm gonna share my experience playing this game with other people. Obviously I wasn't like thinking about, okay, I'm gonna make epic montage right off the bat. It was more
Yeah.
it was more like just like a journal, which is why, especially early on, my YouTube channel was partially, me making gaming videos, but I think my second video ever was me just sitting there in front of my camera talking about how it was really, really late and I had to write papers, and two things annoyed me: frost mages and having to write papers, and I was talking about those two things. And so it ended up being like the whole channel ended up being sort of like a journal of my experiences within World of Warcraft and out of World of Warcraft. So I got to share the fun I had with gaming with people. I also got to share, whatever was going on in my real life with people as well, and that continues with the fitness thing. But how that works with the streaming aspect is one of my favorite things about making YouTube videos is being able to interact with my viewers through the comments and stuff like that. Seeing what they say, seeing what they liked. I think that was really cool, and for a long time I made a point of responding to like every single comment that everybody left, because it was really fun for me. And so when I heard about an opportunity to interact with your viewers in real time through streaming, I was like, oh man, that'd be awesome. So I started streaming during the Justin TV days, actually.
yeah.
So I started streaming on Justin, and it was really, really fun. And then eventually it became Twitch, obviously. And throughout the course of me starting YouTube and Twitch, I was a student at first. Then I decided to take a break from being a student because I was putting in a lot of work, and it didn't feel good to me. I felt like what I was doing wasn't really what I was looking for.
Yep.
And so I decided to take a break from school. And out of that break, I was able to get more in touch with the things that made me feel like I was doing something worthwhile. I got to do things that sort of made me feel like, I was doing stuff I wanted to do, and that included my fitness, and that included my YouTube channel. Now, I didn't really stop going to school to do YouTube full time or anything like that. It was just sort of, all right, so you're taking a break. Let's do things that you like to do, and YouTube and streaming was one of those things. And so throughout the course of that, I was also working as a lifeguard at the time. Like I mentioned that when we started
a
the
lifeguard.
water. Yeah, I was working as a lifeguard, but I don't like to talk about like the money aspect of things too much. But I ended up making more money doing the YouTube and the live streaming thing than I was at my lifeguarding job. And I was like, you know what? I think I can really make this step. I think I can really take this leap and go after it. If I have even more time and energy to put forth to doing this, that's something that I want to do. So that was at a very interesting time in my life, because my dad had gotten a new job and they were moving to California. And so I was going to be doing my own thing. And I decided that I was going to stay in Nashville, Tennessee, where I was living at the time. Because I was like, okay, so I could go to California, where I have no idea where anything is. I don't know what's going on, and I have to pay twice as much for my own living arrangements. And I don't really want to be living with my parents, not because I don't love them, just because it's time for me to do my own thing. I was sort of committed to that idea, and so they were like, okay, so one rule is you cannot quit your job as soon as we leave. And I was like, okay. So pretty much as soon as they left, I put in my 2 weeks notice and quit my job. And decided to go full-time into YouTube and streaming, which is a decision that I, definitely don't regret. There's no looking back on that one.
And
so,
it's such a weird thing, like with YouTube too, because so many people don't understand that it can be a job. They just think like you're gonna play video games and be like, you're just gonna sit there all day doing nothing.
Yeah.
So
no, it's definitely weird. Like, I completely am willing to admit that I have like the coolest job in the world. But it's definitely not without an amount of work that you put into it. I do feel like I put a lot of time and effort into what I do, but it's something that I want to do, and it's something that's so rewarding that like there is absolutely nothing else that I could imagine myself wanting to do other than what I'm doing right now. I mean, it gets to channel your creativity, it gets to channel your personality. You're directly involved with a medium that you enjoy, which is both, gaming and, there's a degree of like video editing with some of the videos that I make, like the montages. There's a degree of education where I make arena commentaries, guiding people through some like, different plays that are being made in 3v3 Arena to help them break that down. Like in the guides that I make for class guides, they're also informational. But then there's also just like the absolute off-the-wall goofiness of like the Fury PvP videos where, I make up a character and I inhabit that character, just like I do with all my alts. And one of the interesting things, especially with you, is that like I watched a lot of WoW content, and you're one of the only people that ever sort of gave their characters a personality and did voice acting, which is really, really neat that we get to talk together now. But yeah, there's so much that you get to do with your creativity and with your personality, and you get to share that through your content. I think that's like the coolest thing. Plus, it's really, really fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And it's cool because a lot of people say like, oh, you don't work or whatever, but it's not that. It's more of we do work. It's just fun work.
Yeah, it's just something I enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean, I can definitely see the attitude of where someone's like, I mean, you're just messing around in video games or whatever. But like the thing is if we were contracted to make video content and to host a live web show by somebody else, that's a job, right?
Yeah.
Just because it's like it's of our own choosing. We choose what we do. We choose the content that we make. We have control. I guess that makes it a little bit less of like an imposition rather than like an opportunity. But it is definitely like the coolest thing that I can imagine doing, and I'm like super happy.
Yeah. Because I felt the same way when I started, because I did it as a hobby for a while at the start, and then it's like you slowly are like, hey, I can actually do this for a living. And because I know that's like one of the biggest things people say is like, get a real job.
Yeah,
Most people that say get a real job want to do this as like their job. They're just, like,
yeah. Yeah, that's very true just in general. Like a lot of the negativity that you experience, I think that is rooted in some way in jealousy sometimes, especially a comment like that. It's like, get a real job. It's like, I'm good. I actually have my dream job. I don't really see why I would, if we're talking dreams versus reality, I'll definitely take the dream job over the, the quote, finger quotes, real job,
Well, I heard
you're having so much fun with what you do.
I forget where I heard it. I think it was, I don't remember where it was. Someone's like, they don't pay me in Monopoly money. Like, they pay me in real money. It's not a fake job.
No.
But
it definitely is a good amount of work too. And then one of the coolest things that sort of came out of me being able to do this for a living is like the fact that I had this very, very, very beautiful, lovely, and brave girl named Jenny come into my life. Because I don't know, we could talk about how we sort of got together. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna be like this beautiful girl. It's like name someone else. She'd be like, oh god. She just like kicks you out of the house.
Jenny's the only one for me. But if people are sort of unfamiliar with my story, as my partner in crime, right hand lady, is my fiance Jenny, and she's been playing WoW longer than I have. And how we met is she was watching my YouTube videos, when I sort of first started out. So there are like several phases in my life, mainly dictated by where I lived at the time. So this was like way back. So we had like the college dorm days. Then after the college dorm days, we had my family's old house days. So this is back in my family's old house days, where I was streaming, and she was watching my YouTube videos, and I had a really kind of rough time. Nothing that I couldn't handle, but just a moment that was not a happy moment, but it was definitely a moment of clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to make a video, sort of sharing those feelings and sharing that information with my viewers, just because I had been making a point of sharing things as they were with my viewers, and so I decided to do that again. And that was a video that was pretty intense for me. But Jenny saw that video, and she decided to write me a message because she had gone through a similar situation, and she wanted me to know that what I said meant a lot to her, and that she supported me and she had my back, and that she enjoyed the videos and whatnot, but she also just understood what I was talking about on a very real level. Mm-hmm. And that was a really nice message. And she also was gorgeous in her profile picture on YouTube. So I couldn't help myself. I had to click on her profile picture and see if she had a YouTube channel, and she did. So she had made videos herself, and I thought she was really cute. And so I made it a point, obviously you're gonna remember somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so one night I was streaming, and I was finishing up my stream for the day, and I see somebody named Warcraft Jen hop in the chat. I was like, "Is that Warcraft Jen from YouTube?" And she's like, "Yeah, hey, I'm gonna stop by the stream." I was like, "Oh man, great to see you." So I decided to mod her because on Twitch, or I think it was even Justin at the time. Whenever you mod somebody, they get an icon next to their name, like a green. At the time, it was a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
So it puts a green lightning bolt next to their name, so it makes it really easy to see when they're in the chat. So I moderated her partially for her ability to keep the chat in line, make sure nobody's spamming links or whatever.
Yeah.
But mostly just so I could see whenever she was in chat. So over the time that I was streaming and making YouTube videos, she became a regular on the stream. And we had played together in game sometimes. We had ended up doing battlegrounds together, chatting or whatever, hanging out. Then we also started hanging out a little bit off stream, talking about music, talking about whatever. And we became good friends.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, that became more than just a friendship. We clicked on a really important level, and so we started talking, away from the computer. I was like, let me get them digits. I forget how that happened. I was like,
girl,
all right, so
let me get
I was
them
chilling,
digits.
and I was like, I think I'm gonna go like chill out. So I'm gonna be away from my computer, but you can text me if you want. Is what I did, I think. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I think I either got her number, or gave her my number that way, and so then we started talking on the phone, and things just really took off from there. And eventually, this
You had to
brave
make
girl-
sure it wasn't a catfish.
Yeah.
Just had to make sure.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So I trusted her though, and she trusted me,
Mhm.
and she trusted me enough to actually fly from Utah, where she was living, to Nashville, Tennessee, where I was living at the time. And by the way, we had transitioned from the for the family's old house into the living in friends' basement phase. That's where we are now. So I was living in a house with like 5 other people, and I got to have the basement, which is absolutely fine with me, because I got to have my whole gaming setup spread out across there. It was the perfect setup for me. I couldn't have asked for anything better. I wouldn't even have wanted a room at that point. The basement was so sick. So anyway, that was the basement stage. So she came to visit me when I was in the basement stage. She flew all the way from Utah to Nashville. So talking about making sure you're not getting catfish, like, this girl was super brave to come visit me. And
Yeah.
when she did come down and visit me, like, we knew for sure that what we had going on was definitely the real deal. So we hung out, for the time that she was there, had an absolutely amazing time. And then she had to go back home, and so she was home for a month, but we couldn't stand to be away from each other so much that she was like, okay, we're gonna schedule another trip. So she came down about a month later, and during this trip, we liked each other so much and we hit it off so well that we thought maybe we would have her look for a job, and if she could find a job while she was here, that she would stay. But what ended up happening was we just couldn't like we couldn't get away from each other, man. We had too much fun hanging out, so we didn't end up looking for a job for her. But as the time that she was going to be spending with me was coming to a close, I knew at that point that I loved this girl. And I said, listen, I don't want you to leave. I don't want you to go. I think that what I'm doing with my YouTube and live streaming is going well enough that I can support us both, especially if you're going to be part of my team and help me out. We can work together on this. And she agreed. And so she decided to not use her ticket home, and she decided to tie things up with her old job. She left a career to live with a gamer nerd, making YouTube videos and live streaming for a living
In a basement.
in his friend's basement. That's the girl. So that's some incredible courage, incredible trust in me. And the fact that she put that much courage, that much trust in me is still amazing to me. But I'm so glad she did, because the life that we have together now just keeps getting better and better. And I think we make an amazing team, and I'm so glad to be marrying this girl. And I'm gonna keep gushing about her this entire time. If we don't figure out something else we might ought to talk about. But no, all of that has come from the fact that I was willing to take the leap to start doing this for real as a job, and then this girl was willing to believe in me doing this as a job enough for her to come and live with me. And now, since the basement days, we have gone from a one bedroom apartment days to 2-bedroom apartment days to house in California days.
There you go.
We're making a pretty damn good team, if I do say so myself.
You're moving on up.
I couldn't have done what I've done up to this point without her. So huge shout outs to Jenny.
See, this is why I enjoy the fishing, because I like people just letting their, kind of just their passion flow.
Yeah.
You know, because it's very entertaining to just listen to someone passionately talk about just anything. Because, like, people will be like, oh, what do you like to talk about? And I'm like, well, I ask, like, WoW stuff. But, like, really, I'll listen to people talk about whatever, as long as they're, like, excited and passionate about it, because I think that's interesting.
I can talk about Jenny, man. You know, like, don't get me wrong. I love me some fitness. I'm so glad to be like somebody people look to in the gaming community to make an example that, you know, you don't have to be sedentary, antisocial. You know, you can be a healthy person who is willing to interact with the world. You know, but I will definitely talk all day about Jenny. She is the best.
I always like, because I've always seen you guys at conventions.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ironic because I've never really like talked with like both of you, but like I've probably seen you like 4 or 5 times, just like randomly at conventions, just like, hey, see you next time.
What's up, dude?
Yeah. So
I'm glad we get to chat a little bit now. This is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Me on too. Illustrious fishing with Crendor.
let's transition back to WoW.
Sure.
So did you ever raid a lot, or have you always just PvP'd?
So during the beginning of my gameplay, like the reason I'm playing this game is for PvP for sure. I love PvP. Like that's what gets me jazzed up. The first time I ever encountered a member of the enemy faction, like I literally got the most intense tunnel vision of my entire life. Like literally my heart was beating so hard, and I can really remember like my actual zones of vision like closing up as I like chased after this feral druid who was probably on auto run, just running across my screen like near South Shore. And I remember just hunting him down and killing him, even though he was probably AFK at the time, auto running. But it was so intense, and I remember just throughout the leveling process having just the absolutely most epic random running into other players and having a super intense fight with them. So I knew I was hooked immediately. But in terms of the raiding aspect of things, I had done a little bit of raiding in Cataclysm. Not gonna lie to you, a lot of it was just being like, hey, do you want to come get like, you know, this weapon or this trinket? I was like, hell yeah, definitely. I was in a PvP guild that did PvE, and sometimes I was able to get some sick PvE gear. But the most raiding I've ever done is actually in this expansion. Last raiding tier, I would get pretty much on a weekly basis. I would get people from the stream, and we would all group up together and just basically stream pug Blackrock Foundry runs. And I guess before that, we were even doing all the other content before that. You know, back in with all the ogres and whatnot. We cleared that on heroic. We never did mythic or anything like that. But we cleared it on heroic, and then we went into BRF and did that as well because I wanted my legendary ring. But now that I know the legendary ring doesn't work in PvP, I'm a little bit less interested.
Yeah.
but no, PvE is still a lot of fun. I think it's a different side of the game that it's definitely fun to do with my viewers. Everybody being able to come together and work together on a grander scale than just doing like world PvP or battlegrounds together. It's pretty neat. So I've done a little bit of raiding in my day, but usually any sort of PvP or PvE that I'm doing is intended at least to help me out in the PvP side of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, PvP is definitely my main focus.
So I've always been more of I kind of like transitioned actually. I raided in vanilla WoW, and then I did a lot of PvP in BC, and then I went back to raiding, and then I've kind of just been casual ever since then. But I guess like I've always been curious because like I'll see people complain and be like, the WoW PvP is so bad. And like they just yell. But it's like, as someone who PvPs all the time, what do you think is good and bad about WoW PvP? So
I think most of the people who are fussing about WoW PvP are just fussing to fuss. I feel like people will fuss about anything if they're in a fussing kind of mood, then they're gonna fuss. And I don't mean that in like a overly disparaging way about people. It's just like
just a normal disparaging.
Yeah, here's the yeah, just a normal amount, a moderately disparaging comment. The thing about PvP is like one of the things that makes WoW interesting is the fact that there are different classes with different strengths and different weaknesses, and when you put those different classes together, there are some things that are really powerful and there are some things that are not as powerful. And I don't want a PvP experience that's completely the same. I don't want everybody to have the exact same abilities and just sort of like I don't even want everybody to necessarily have the exact same gear for casual PvP. Like in Battlegrounds, like I want to go into arena, I want to get really good gear, and I want to smash people who haven't put in the time and effort, to achieve that. But I do think that WoW PvP is a lot of fun, and I mean I've been playing PvP for a long time, but I think part of that is just having a good attitude about it. Being able to be okay with World of Warcraft being a video game, it's like, okay, so it's a game, so there are some things that are going to be kind of quirky about it, and you just kind of roll with it. But as long as you have a good attitude about it, I mean, I think that's kind of like the main thing. I mean, people who take the game very, very seriously, I definitely can respect them wanting the game to be the absolute best competitive experience it can be. And some of those, concerns are realistic. Like if a class really is outperforming everybody else with less effort or skill being put into that, maybe that needs to be looked at. But I'm also comfortable with there being a hierarchy of classes. Like certain classes are, for a certain expansion, are going to be better than others, and that's just how it goes. But over time, that things get balanced out, and that's okay. I also, one of the main things is that people fuss about like individual class balance the most, and they like direct all their concerns at like the PvP designer, and it's like, dude, like like they have a whole other side of the game to balance as well with PvE. So WoW is definitely a unique game in that sense, where they have two somewhat distinct sides of things that affect each other in some way. PvE, a class does have to be able to perform in PvE a certain way, and it would be really difficult to have two completely different setups for PvE and PvE within WoW. But just as a player who's played primarily PvP all the way, through my entire WoW experience, and has had some relative success. I mean, I mentioned this earlier. I feel like I have plenty of room for improvement in every aspect of what I do, my skill in World of Warcraft included. But I mean, I have achieved Gladiator like 6 times in the time that I've been playing WoW, so I have some experience in relatively high-rated arena. And I think the main thing that helps you sort of deal with any sort of imbalances or things that are unpleasant about the game is just having a good attitude, having an attitude of, wanting to improve what you're doing rather than being upset about some external factor. Try to make yourself better rather than fussing about what something outside of you, like something else is wrong, not me.
Yeah.
No, I can definitely say that there are some times where I'm playing the game and I'm like, okay, there is almost nothing I can do about that situation right there. That feels a little bit helpless.
Yeah.
But I can think of a situation like that last season where there was a particular 3v3 arena comp that gave my 3v3 arena team a lot of problems, and it felt really hopeless. But we practiced and we improved, and we ended up beating the absolute best team, the absolute highest rated team running that comp that gave us trouble. And then we found out, some other strategies that worked really well against it as well that gave us a really solid fighting chance. So rather than being, if you adopt a positive sort of self-improvement outlook rather than just fussing about the way things are, then you can actually find ways of overcoming those obstacles. And I think that's a good thing. And I encourage the PvP community to have that attitude.
It's very true in like a lot of games too, because I know like I play a lot of League of Legends, and in League of Legends, many people will like fight against a champion and they'll die to it and just be like, that champion's broken, when really it's like more about picking a champion that counters it, or like playing against that champ in like the right way, and not just being like, it's broken.
Yeah, you can definitely have unfavorable matchups, and there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that certain things are more powerful with respect to certain other things. But I just encourage people not to abandon hope, like, there's literally nothing I can do. It's like, okay. Maybe there's literally nothing you can do sort of within the scope of what you've been doing or what you think you can do. But, that's part of the fun with a game like World of Warcraft. It's really complex, and it's really, it does reward creativity a little bit, I think, both in terms of like how you put different classes together or how you play a certain class. And we've seen that, throughout the expansions, is that things change, and the people who are able to adapt to those changes, are the most successful. But yeah, even in a game like League of Legends, I think that like one of the best things to do is approach every game of League like you as a player trying to get better, rather than focusing on like the wins or losses. Like obviously you want to win the game.
Yeah.
But if you played really well and you learned something, or you didn't play as well and you learned something and you ended up losing, that's still pretty valuable. Even if like you play a game and somebody just like carries your team to oblivion and you win, but you didn't really make any improvements as a player, that's like not as helpful. So rather than focusing just solely on winning or losing, I think it's helpful to focus on self-improvement.
Or even just like understanding why what happened. Like a lot of people will like have something happen, like, oh, I got ganked here, or like this happened, when it's like you could have like prevented that, but they don't realize that. And like a lot of it is realizing like, okay, I can do this differently and I need to work on that.
Yeah, having a little bit more ward coverage or something like that can go a long way. Yeah, and that is it. That is in control of the player, I think, and that's important.
So you seem like you're a very competitive person. having like been into sports and like all the things. So it makes sense that you're like a PvPer.
Yeah, I suppose so. I do like to. I definitely am motivated by competition. I definitely enjoy competition. I don't like to think of myself as like an overly competitive person. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
I definitely can be like a little bit of a salty loser, but it's usually directed inward. Like, man, I need to get better. But yeah, I definitely a bit of a competitor, and that's why, one of my most recent things that I'm doing, we touched on this earlier, is taking my work that I do with my fitness side of things and actually putting that up against other people's work. So yeah, definitely competition is a big source of motivation for me. So yeah, like the PvP aspect of things it makes sense that I'm into PvP, right? Like, because I went from my gaming background went from a lot of like solo play RPGs. I'm thinking about PvP again. It's like solo play RPGs, like the Phantasy Star Online, the Super Nintendo games that I mentioned, stuff like that, where it's just me versus my environment, killing monsters, getting more powerful. I definitely enjoy the aspect of putting in work in a video game to get more powerful, just like you put in work in real life to become more successful or stronger, more healthy or whatever. But once I started playing games like Dota, when I was like, man, I actually want to fight other players, and the experience of battling against other real players and making your character more powerful within a Dota match. You get more gold, you get more items, you get more kills, and you just continue to do better and better. That experience really motivated me to start trying to play more games that you went against other players. And so when I discovered World of Warcraft, or when I remembered World of Warcraft, because I had experiences with WoW previously, I just didn't have the time to play that game because I was doing so much with athletics and whatnot. And my parents were like, hell no, we're not gonna do that game. we've heard things. And I was like, okay. And so I had experiences with World of Warcraft. My friends had played it, and I'd seen it at their house, and I played it a little bit, reported for account sharing. Played it a little bit, but I also played the trial version of Wrath of the Lich King, and when I played that, like, I knew that I loved that game, but I knew that it wasn't the right time. The love was there, but it wasn't the right time. So when I finally, in college, had a little bit of time to check the game out and play it for real, sort of make that decision, that's what I did. And this is a little bit off topic, but I do want to mention this just because it's kind of an important moment for me, and it might be kind of off topic, but I can distinctly remember the moment of extreme clarity that I had. I've had people, I hope I'm not the only one, but people have moments of extreme clarity in their lives, and it's important to listen to those moments. And one of those moments for me was, I remember there was like a parade or something going on the street where I parked my car when I was in college, and I had to move my car. So I went and drove my car to a park where I could park for the day, and I called my mom on the way home because I could remember so clearly knowing that starting a YouTube channel and starting, was the right idea for me. Playing WoW, crafting my experience, sharing my experience with other people in the form of YouTube was the right decision for me to make. And so like it was almost like the idea of that, like the pathway was shimmering for me. And I remember being so self-assured that I just called my mom, like, hey mom, how's it going? Having your normal talk. I'm like, this is something I'm gonna do. And they're like, okay, all right, but like this is something I'm gonna do. And I'm so glad that I did. Because it has worked out extremely well since then. But we seem to be talking about like the history of how things happen, and that's one of those moments for me. That was definitely an intense moment for me, is wanting to do that. But I also had been, like I mentioned, I had been watching a lot of people on YouTube back in the day. I'd been seeing montages. I'd just been seeing a variety of WoW content, and I was like, that's something that I want to do. I realized that, especially with the start of YouTube, things had been moving, man. People were making videos, and it seemed like a community was building on YouTube. And I also remember writing a YouTube message to somebody who I had watched on YouTube. I was like, hey, so they were actually like an FPS channel. I was like, hey, so if I wanted to start making YouTube videos, how would I go about doing that? And unsurprisingly, I didn't receive a response from that.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because what it made me realize is I don't need anybody to tell me how to do this.
Yeah. I
just need to start doing it. And I still receive questions like that. So some people are like, hey, so I want to start a YouTube channel, or hey, I want to start live streaming. Like, how do I go about doing that? I mean, recording software or whatever, that's all fine. But here's the thing is that, like, if you want to do something, you go after it. You do the research about how to get started. And that's what I did. I started my YouTube channel on an 08 MacBook Pro laptop, which is not known for its gaming powers or maybe even its editing powers. Yeah. But I had this idea, I had this feeling that this is what I wanted to do. This is something that I was going to do, and I went after it. And so that's another one of those things that I feel like
It's like life.
I may not have known exactly what I was doing at the time, but really having a clear idea of something that I wanted to do being presented to me through whatever means, through my experiences or otherwise, and going after it was one of the most important decisions I've ever made. So if you guys are experiencing moments of clarity and there's something that you want to go after and hopefully it's a positive thing, then go after it, give it a shot.
That's the same experience I had too. 'Cause I mean,
Really?
I watched some World of Warcraft videos, and they were like kind of dying off in Wrath of the Lich King. Like a lot of the big machinima people had already made a lot of videos, and they were like, yeah, the game's kind of like, oh, it's going down now. And I was like, but I still like it.
Yeah.
And so like I was like, well, since nobody else wants to make these types of videos, I'll make them. And so I was kind of the only one doing it, and I kind of got like all the audience coming to me like, wow, this guy's making all these videos. And I was like, yeah, and I enjoy it. And I was never really like, how do I do this? I like just looked up like video editing software. I looked up audio stuff, and like the first few videos I made were just like really bad. Just like audio is better, but then you learn and you're like, oh, this is a better way of doing it, and this is a better way, and you just go along, and it's like, that's part of the fun of everything is like you learn and get better and improve as you go along.
Exactly. And if it's something that you enjoy doing, then like part of the fun is getting better for yourself. So this is another very kind of random aside. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
So I was running the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a weekend, and so people like you're chilling, they got their garages open or whatever, and I run past this one house, and I hear this woman like yelling, and I'm like, what is going on? So I glance over, and there's this little kid in like a karate outform with his headgear on, and his mom's like raging at him for not punching properly, and I'm like, okay, so that's not very nice, but it's none of my business. So I run by, and then I do another lap, and then I come back like 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, and she's still yelling at the kid. She's like, do you wanna just do it, or do you wanna win? Do you wanna lose? And he's just looking at the ground with like the saddest, most dejected look. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, that poor kid. I hope you do okay, buddy. I hope you can survive your parents. And so I do my final lap, and then she's still yelling at this poor guy. But I decide it's none of my business. I'm not gonna get in their family life. This kid's probably got it rough enough as it is. Regardless, what I realized out of that situation is that if you want to help somebody do something, hopefully you help them learn to like it. And if they can like it, if you can help them learn to enjoy something, then they can learn to love it. And if at the point that they love it, they probably want to get better at it, right? So for us, it's like we think making YouTube videos is fun. Hey, we like the idea. Let's try it. We start doing it. We end up loving it. At that point that we love it, we're like, I want to get better at this. I want to do this for myself. And once you sort of have that internal motivation of wanting to get better at things, that's when it's important. So it's kind of like for us how once you're internally motivated, it's really hard. It's really hard to stop you. If you're willing to go after something, it's hard to keep you from doing it. So the fact that we can do it for a living is amazing. But that poor little kid is kind of like a kind of a weak aside to that sort of thing. It's like, hey, learn to like what you do, learn to love what you do, and then as you love it, you'll get better at it.
I think a lot of people are even afraid of like becoming successful. I've actually heard of that, like a fear of success.
Yeah, that's a big quote, right? Our greatest fear is that not that we are incapable, but that we're capable beyond measure, or something like that. Yeah,
or that like they'll try and it won't like work out, and they're afraid that's gonna happen, so they don't want to start. Like that's another big one.
Yeah, that's one of those concerns that I feel like you need to address by going after stuff, because sometimes it's not going to work out that great, but if you learn from the experience, like that's kind of like what being a human's about. Like you can learn from other people's experiences, like studying history or studying what people have written or whatever, but sometimes you even hear information that doesn't really hit you until you experience it yourself, and you're like, okay, that's what that guy was saying. So yeah, the fear of trying is something that you really got to work through that, especially if it's something that's worth trying. It's something that you want to do. Yeah. And you're just sort of hesitant because you don't know what the outcome is going to be. Nobody knows what the outcome's going to be, man. Yeah. But you got to be willing to go for the ride, I suppose.
And it's like sometimes it might not work out. Like I know if I really work hard at trying to play basketball, I'm not going to make the NBA. but that doesn't mean I
Believe in
don't.
yourself, Crendor. Come on.
I might
You got
make
this.
the bench, but like, I'm like,
Sure.
I still enjoy basketball. I still enjoy watching it and playing it and everything, and like I do it as a hobby. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna make money off doing this. And sometimes it's like the same thing for
Yeah.
whatever thing you're interested in or interested
Yeah.
words.
I got you. And one of the
yeah.
things that sort of goes along with that is I feel like obviously like the idea that you're kind of afraid to try is one thing, but I mean once you try a couple different things, you may try things that don't really work out the way they're supposed to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the cool things that'll happen eventually is you will find that thing that makes like you special. You will find that special talent that you've got. And if you're able to share that with the world in some way, or that's like the best feeling, I
Mm-hmm.
think. So when people ask me like, how do I start a YouTube channel? How do I start a live stream? It's the question for me is less about like what recording software should I use. Even if they ask that, it's like
Yeah.
what you should be focused on, whether you're doing YouTube or Twitch or anything else in the world. What you should be focused on is what can you uniquely offer, right?
Yeah.
Like what about you is it that makes you special at this one thing?
Yeah.
So
'Cause it shouldn't
and
be
that's,
like.
that's something that I still try to work on. I still try to discover about myself is what is it about me that I can bring to the table that maybe nobody else can.
Yeah, and it's
That-
like it's not about what do I need to use to be like this super big personality. It's more about like
Yeah.
how do I project what I want to project and like what tools do I need to do that? Cuz I was never like, "Oh, what video software do I need to use to be the best person ever?" I was just
Yeah.
kind of like, I need something to get the ideas in my head into visual, like I need to make them
Yeah.
visual. How do I do that? And once I
Yeah.
figured out how to do that, I'm like, well, I need to, do that. And so I did. I
Right,
was never
but-
just
but
like.
you went after that yourself. Like you figured out how to do that.
Yeah.
Like you did the research at least. And there's like, it's like there's also the questions of like how do I do something fast, right? Like how do I if I want to start YouTube, how do I get tons of subs or how do I get tons of views? Because
Yeah.
there are strategies that you can employ. There are certain types of videos that you can make that tend to get more views. There are certain types of tactics that you can make to get more views, but like one of the things that's going to make something stick is having it be genuine, and that's one of the things that I've tried to do with my channel, and I definitely feel like that's one of the things that you capture with your channel is just sort of being yourself, making content that you want to make and having it be that rather than it being like some sort of gimmick or some sort of trick.
Yeah.
So when people ask me like how do I do something fast, especially with fitness, when fitness is concerned, I mean this topic applies, or this sort of tidbit of information applies to a lot of things. It's like rather than doing something fast, like drop the idea of doing something fast and have the idea of it be doing something consistently, or having something being done genuinely or organically, right? Rather than just worrying about how to do things fast, do it right, do it consistently. Be willing to put in the work to make
I'd
something really
say
shine.
just like being yourself and being genuine and doing what you love is the one thing, and then consistency is definitely the other one. Because a lot of people, they have like, oh yeah, I got some ideas, and they'll make like one or two or three of the ideas in their head, and they're like, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And it's like that's the biggest one is like consistently doing it. Like when I saw that I have like over 100 WoW videos that I've made, I was like, how did I do that? Like I look back, I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah, dude. It's part of the fun though, being able to look back and appreciate what you've done still while maintaining a willingness and a sort of hunger, right? You always want to be better, and that's something that I continue to want to do. Like it is. I don't think that I'm like necessarily brilliant by any means, but I can definitely still understand it's difficult to be consistently brilliant. I think that's one of the big struggles.
Well, we're
that,
like we're
artists have.
entertainers.
Yeah.
And it's like it's hard to always be entertaining.
Yeah,
I
it's
think.
hard to always have your next thing be your best thing, but you still want to go after it, and that still applies to trying something and having it maybe not go great. Like that doesn't happen just to people who are just starting off. Like it happens to people who are like well experienced, well into something. Is that sometimes they try something new, or they even try to build off something that they've been doing. It doesn't go the best that it's ever gone, but you just got to roll with it. You got to learn from the experience just like anybody else. So that's something that I still want to do. Like I feel like a lot of my favorite videos I've ever made are things I'm like, damn, that is a really cool video. I hope I can make something as good as that, Like,
Yeah.
but the cool thing is that, if you open yourself up to those experiences, and if you open yourself up to those opportunities, like you can. And I
Yeah.
believe in myself, and I like to believe in everybody. You know that everybody's best work is ahead of them. You know.
Yeah, that's what I love about competition too, is like you always see other people like trying to compete at such a high level, and it kind of motivates you to do better.
Yeah,
That's what I
hope
love
so,
about
you know?
competition.
That definitely occurs with me.
Yeah, and it's like, ironically with this show too, like I delayed this show for so long because I was like, I don't know how to fish with people correctly, or like I don't know how I want the format to go. I don't know how people are gonna fish with me if they don't have a WoW subscription or a character like this. And then like after a year of delaying it, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then I just did it, and now we're on like episode 12 or something. So it's like a lot of times you just got to be like, you know what? Let's do it, and however it turns out, that's how it's gonna turn out.
Yeah, I mean sometimes like for you, like when you're just first thinking about it, it's like, am I really gonna make a show about talking to people, just fishing for an hour? Like, is that really gonna be a thing? And then you do it, and it's like, it's awesome, you know?
Yeah.
You get to hang out with people that you haven't really got to hang out with before. Like you mentioned, like we had seen each other at conventions before. We're relatively familiar with each other. We're always like, oh hey dude, you know, it's like great to see you, but we're both doing our thing, and we're on the move, and it's cool to see each other. We're not gonna hold up too much of each other's time or anything. But now we get to chill out and fish and hang out with all these lovely WoW players.
Yeah.
Just chill for an hour and get to know each other a little bit better and talk about stuff we're into. And I think that's really, really neat. Especially because we've been brought together, you know, by YouTube or by gaming. Like that's a really neat thing to be able to say, that, you know, we get to talk about some pretty cool stuff with pretty cool people as a result of a video game.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's probably my favorite part about not even the show, but just like the community in general, is like I have so many friends just through this community that it's like insane.
Yeah.
Like, do you think about it?
Yeah, it's just pretty much crazy, you know, everything that's come out of this game, right? There's the opportunity that you and I have to, you know, make videos and live stream, and have that be something that we do for real. But you also have all the friendships, like you mentioned, and there's friendships that you've come into contact, like you and I have come into contact, not through playing together in the game, but through like, oh hey, you know, you make YouTube videos, I make YouTube videos, you do cool stuff, you too, man. So yeah, it's like works out that way. But it's also like I've met a lot of my you know, best gaming friends through doing arena and playing together, and actually just sort of running into each other in the game, and that's really neat. And of course, we mentioned earlier, you know, I definitely think I have World of Warcraft or gaming in general to thank for, in a big way, for, you know, the love of my life right now, being able to find her. You know, that's something I'm very, very grateful for, and all that comes down in some way or other to relation to gaming, man. It's wild.
Even just World of Warcraft in general, like everybody will always be like, well, what do you think the greatest game ever is? And I'm always like, oh, it's WoW. And they're like, well, how do you know that? I'm like, well, WoW, even just for me, is like, it gave me a game to play like through high school, through like all my schooling. It gave me my career. It gave me like all my friends. It gave me like literally everything. And I'm like, that alone to me makes it like the greatest game I've ever played.
Yeah, it takes something that exists in a virtual world and like manifests real life things out of it. You know, and one of the cool things is that like everybody has some story about World of Warcraft. There aren't a lot of people who just sort of, I play WoW, it's all right, you know. The people who play WoW are pretty passionate about the game, and they all have very unique stories about what led them to World of Warcraft, or they all have fun stories about things that happened while they were playing WoW. So it's definitely, you know, a legendary, timeless game, and I completely agree with you that it's the best game of all time, and for a lot of reasons, gameplay-wise, but also just the fact that it sort of transcends gaming, unlike anything else out there.
Yeah, that's true facts. That's the reason I wanted to make the show, is because I was like, I don't want it to be like your typical, like, so how'd you get big on the internet, even though I still ask that. But, like, I just love the whole, like, WoW nostalgia things. Everybody has, like, a WoW story, whatever it is. And it's, like, it's so cool, because I've talked to, like, Oxhorn, who, like, used to be a big YouTube guy.
Yeah.
And I talked to, like, you know, like current big YouTube people, or like streamers, or like, it's like you get to meet so many people. Like even Towley. Towley's another one who, like, I'd always see him around, and then I finally got to talk to him, and I'm like, you know, he's an awesome guy.
He's a great dude, and he's actually one of my closest real life friends.
Yeah.
And I met him. I came into contact with him through World of Warcraft and gaming, and I do consider him to be one of my absolute closest real life friends. Like, he's an awesome guy, and met him through gaming, so it's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah. So, we've hit an hour, so I think that's a good time to stop it. So
Absolutely. This has been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah. Why don't you plug yourself so I can put your
Sure.
links and stuff in the description as well.
Absolutely. So if you guys want to check out my YouTube channel, it's Bajheera WoW, and if you want to come hang out with me on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/Bajheera. I don't know if you guys are into Twitter or all that. I don't know how many plugs you're trying to give right now, but you guys can, if you follow me on Twitter, if you follow me on YouTube and Twitch, then you'll get a pretty full picture and you can find anything else you're interested in about me. But I do want to thank you, Crendor, for having me on. This has been a lot of fun, sort of getting to know you and sharing a little bit of my story, and I hope your viewers enjoy it, because I know my viewers will be pumped to come swing by and check out this video as well on your channel.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun too. Maybe I'll have Jen on one time, and
That'd
she
be
can talk
amazing.
about you and all of your secrets.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that.
Yeah.
All right, so let me break it down. He made me move. This rascal imprisoned me in his friend's basement.
Save me.
Help.
All right. I never know how to end these things. How should we end it?
I think that we should end it by saying, "Go after your dreams. We believe in you." Crendor and Bajheera out.
Crendor and Bajheera out. See you.
Peace.